One, and we're live. Good morning, everybody. This is Oluseyi Lala. Welcome to Achiever Zone. Today, we're having a very, very interesting guest of mine joining us. Today, I have Ota Ahigbe in the building. Well, not physically in the building, but she's joining us online to have this session with us. Ota, hi, how are you?
Hi, Shay. I'm good. How are you?
Awesome. Nice to have you on board. First, let me
Nice to
apologize
be
to
here.
everybody that last week we couldn't do the episode because we had some internet connectivity issues. Hoping that we won't have that today, but we're just going to soldier on. Like I said, Ota is here today and we'll be discussing on a very, very interesting topic, which is the mindset, the mindset shift you need for growth, basically. So we'll be talking about growth, we'll be talking about mindset, we'll be talking about other areas as the discussion takes us, and it's going to be very fun and exciting, relaxed atmosphere, and we'll take it one step at a time. Just to give a bit of a background, Ota, Achiever Zone is like a spin-off from a group I created on Facebook early in the year called 2020 Goals and Achievements, and that group was kind of inspired because over the years, I have set my goals, I have tracked my goals and achieved my goals over the years using various principles. And I realized that as I got to meet more people, mentors, attend events and all of that, I gleaned from, nuggets from some of those events that I added to myself that pushed me from, 20% achievement, to 60, to 80, to 90. And late last year, I just got inspired that I should, set up this Facebook group and invite communities and invite people into that community where we just look at the principles of setting goals, tracking them and achieving them over, the year. And we didn't even know that 2020 was going to turn out like this. So basically, we started, and we pushed it into different quarters. So we had goals we set for quarter one with the community, over 400, close to 500 people in the community. And on a regular basis, we have discussions. I drop posts, on a regular basis. And we finished quarter one and everything was fine. But you and I know that it was around that time that COVID-19 happened and the pandemic came. And everybody kind of fizzled out because we were trying to adjust and find our footing and all of that. So the energy in the community died down a bit for obvious reasons because even me, I was trying to figure out what to do. But I kind of decided after a while that, you know what, I'm not just going to sit down and say, oh, by the end of 2020, if I survive, that's a goal. I said, no, that the goals I set earlier in the year, I'm still going to try and pursue it. So around the middle of the year, which is about week 26, I got inspired again that, okay, you know what? Instead of having just to post within the community, of course, with the technology, Facebook Live came in, some other things came in that I felt, okay, I can leverage on this technology and call a couple of my friends within my network to just have a session where we just sit down and talk about different topics to help the community. And that's how I started. Like I was telling you earlier, I started sometime in May. I started afraid. I didn't know how to go about it, but I started nonetheless. And here we are. This is episode 10, in September, and things have just, moved on from there. So that's a bit of a background to, the whole thing. And I'm happy we're together sitting and talking about this because, like I told you earlier, I realized that we've not actually physically met. As in, I was just thinking back to the story of how I got to know you, and all that. That I got your phone number from someone. Well, you were still working in the bank at the time, and I needed some banking transactions, and I just called you. And even though you were not in the building, you made arrangements for me to meet a colleague of yours, and everything was sorted by the time I came back the next day, and everything was like that. And I realized that over the years, you've just been someone that, we catch up online, whether on Instagram or WhatsApp and all that. And we just kind of chit chat and we're kind of aligned about a lot of things. So it's really amazing that we've not actually sat together physically in the same space, but we have, we're passionate about the same things and we're driving in the same direction. So firstly, let me thank you for that because it's very rare, because I mean, and to a large extent for me, it's also the new normal now that I can get to interact with someone without even physically meeting that person. And this has gone for the last 4 years. So you're welcome, Ota. Let me give you some time to introduce yourself and just talk about yourself, a little bit.
Okay, thank you so much, Shay. First of all, your story is very inspiring. I mean, talking about how you started the platform on Facebook, and you know, I was really inspired that even as 2020 didn't go as we planned, you
Mm,
still stayed on course. You started this platform afraid, and that was it really hit home for me, and I was very inspired by that. So, you're also someone who inspires me. Like you said, we've come a long way, even though we've not physically met, but then we've
right.
just always been touching base with each other, and I'd like to say that it's been a good friendship. So a bit about myself. My name is Ota Osese, Ota for short. And
Okay.
very simply, I'd like to say I'm a writer, I'm a speaker. I call myself Sunshine. First of all, because I love the sun so much. I love
Right.
sunshine, and I've been told by a number of people that when I get into a room, I light up the room. So I
Wow.
just, took on that name, Sunshine, and of course, God's daughter. So a bit about myself. I worked in the bank for 11 years.
Wow.
Very beautiful. I had a very beautiful career in the bank. I worked in different divisions, from retail to telecoms to financial institutions.
Mm,
In different positions as a team leader and all of those things. And it was a very good experience for me. In 2016, I started a group called Business Square Connect. And
mm,
basically, the purpose of that was to serve as a village square for businesses. So I used to curate high level mastermind firms for entrepreneurs and business professionals in Abuja. And we
mm,
come together and we have conversations on growth, on learning, networking, collaboration. And, I hosted about 14 episodes, 14
wow.
mastermind firms.
Sessions. Okay.
Yeah, 13 in Abuja and one in Lagos. A high
Mm,
point for me was in 2018 when I had then United States Ambassador to Nigeria as my personal guest, and he didn't come
wow.
alone. He came with his counselor for economic affairs. It meant a lot to me because it showed me that what I was doing mattered, and
Yeah.
it piqued the interest of the ambassador of the United States. So, in all of this, I've made a lot of mistakes. Oh my
Mm,
goodness, I've failed a lot of times, but then one thing I like to pat myself on the back on is every time I fail or I hit a hard rock or something sets me back, I just like chill a bit,
mm,
deal with it, accept responsibility, and then I get up again and I start moving. And so that's something that I have always done. And so when I see other people who do that as well, it really, really inspires me a lot. And this topic is one exciting topic for me because growth is something that is constant and never ending. You can
mm,
never end growing unless you
mm,
die. So until the day
mm.
we die, we keep growing. And so it was a very, very exciting topic for me. So I can't wait for us to get into it. Thanks so much for having me, Shay. It's really an honor and a privilege to be here.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for accepting the invite. And I mean, like you said, we've come a long way. So for us to sit down, after 4 years that we've known each other, we've been going back and forth online and all that, and have this session is exciting for me as well. And the topic in particular is also exciting. I mean, like I was telling you earlier about how I started. I just started this afraid. I didn't know what I was doing at the time, but I just got inspired and I said, okay, you know what? 2020 is not going to, win over me and I'll be bitter about things and all that. The goals that I wanted to achieve, I'm going to strive for them and achieve them. And along the way, I will inspire people as well, which is why I started our community on Facebook and, we got it started. So let's just go, into it because this is going to be very, very interesting. And I'm sure we would not be able to dig into everything, so we might need to just do, as in call you back and come and do part two or something. But I mean, that's me trying to give you an invite ahead of time anyway. But let's just start. I mean, the topic says the mindset shift you need to grow. And just like you said, growth is something that is constant with us as human beings. And I mean, even in the environment that we're in, we see it on a regular basis. So is there a way that you can talk about growth in a sense that kind of matches with, everybody's kind of understanding, whether, because for me, I look at it from an agricultural point of view, I look at it from a human being point of view, and there are different areas of growth, growing in your career, growing in your relationship and all of that. So there are many facets to it. So I don't expect a single definition, for it. But how do you explain, growth in a nutshell?
Okay. Taking up taking up your the scenario, the agricultural side of things.
Mm,
I think for me, I would say growth is a process that takes one out of their comfort zone. So
mm,
if you look at in agriculture, a seed on its own, it's in its comfort zone.
mm,
But for that seed to grow, it has to go out of its comfort zone, break
right.
out, you know, become new. So that's in that side. And if we even look at the caterpillar to the butterfly, it has to go out of its comfort zone to grow.
Mm,
Now,
mm,
bringing it to ourselves as human beings, I would still use that same definition. Growth is a process that takes you out of your comfort zone, that
mm,
leads you to learn new things, that helps you to develop a stronger mindset, that
mm,
helps you to cultivate healthy habits, and also helps you to overcome your fears. So growth is a process that is constant and never ending. And in the
mm,
process of growing, you have to get out of your comfort zone. If you don't get out of your comfort zone, you cannot grow. So that process of growing, you leave your comfort zone. You have to face your fears and overcome your fears. Left for all of us would like to stay in the same place, be
mm,
in our familiar territory. But growing requires that we overcome our fears of that territory and get
mm,
to another level. Growing requires that our mindset have to change. We have a certain mindset, but to grow, we have to go beyond, transcend that mindset, and then
mm.
cultivate new habits and ultimately learn new things. So I didn't give a specific definition, but I just tried to, try to give an understanding of what growth is in a simple way as I could.
Yeah, I mean, and just like you've mentioned, because I will basically pick off some of the things you say, and that's how, we continue with the conversation to a large extent. And I like the way you put it, in the sense that anything outside your comfort zone, can be attributed to growth. I know there's a statement that says that, success is outside your comfort zone as well. So if you want to strive for something outside of where you are, then you're growing. You know, and that leads me to, like, a second area to say, okay, so if that's the case, then that means that growth is very important, because you can't achieve greatness, you can't achieve success sitting where you are. You need to stretch out of where you are. And I like the analogy you gave of, the butterfly, going from that, the lava to the pupa, and then, going out and all of that. That's a growth cycle. And if you look at the picture I just put up now, I mean, just like human beings, just like us as well. You start from a baby, you become a toddler, a young person, adolescent, you get, older. And then the cycle goes back again, where you're old and then you're being treated like a baby again and all of that. So that's like the circle of life, basically, picking up from Lion King. But again, it's essential that we do that. So to answer that question about why growth is important, I think you mentioned it to say, if you want to do anything important, if you want to do anything successful, if you want to be great in life, then you need to stretch outside your comfort zone. But the other thing I was going to ask you will be, in terms of the different areas that we need to grow in. And I know I've mentioned, your career, physically, your relationship and all that, but which other areas do you think are very important, for people to grow in?
Okay, so to answer your question, I'll just start with by saying that, of course, from what you said, growth is vitally important in
Mm,
life and business. Um, the reason why growth is important is because you have to give the best of yourself
mm,
first to yourself and then to other people. You
mm,
cannot give what you don't have. And that's the
mm,
reason why we have a lot of mediocrity flying around us. We have
right.
mediocre people, we have mediocre businesses, because those people behind the businesses are not growing. And we see people who have this martyr syndrome where they feel like, oh, I do everything. Oh, I don't care about money. I just want to give of myself. I just want to give. I just want to give. The problem is that leads to burnout. And the reason why they are burning out is because they are not growing. Because when you're growing, you are filling up your cup. So when you're growing, it's like you're getting better. You're becoming a better version of yourself. And then you have more to give. Growing is give. When you grow, you give and take. So it's growing is part of the process of, for example, breathing. Nobody can exist by simply breathing in, breathing in, breathing in. People breathe in and breathe out. So
Right.
that's the same thing with growth. When you grow, you give. When you grow, you give. So that's why growth is vitally important, because you have the best to give of yourself and also to give to others. I'm coming to your answer, but I just wanted to touch on a few places. Growth
Right.
also helps you filter the unnecessary from your life. So if you're not growing, you are like a dumping ground where everybody just dumps their opinions on you. I mean, I remember there was a time in my life I used to be an information junkie. Like
Wow.
I literally was, I would go after books like I was on some kind of crack cocaine or something. Like it
Right.
was so bad. If I see any personal development book in the traffic, I can park and spend how many minutes. If I'll go to bookshops, I was an information junkie because I just spent my time buying books, never really reading all of them from cover to cover, but reading all of them nonetheless. But when I started growing, I started getting clear on what exactly I wanted.
Right.
And in that process, I started filtering out the books that I didn't need.
Yeah.
Growing is what helps you to do that. We live in a world right now where we have information overload. We are
Absolutely.
bombarded with information everywhere. Information is so easy now. It's only when you are growing, you know the information that you cannot take at the
Right.
moment. You know
Right.
the information you need. You know the things that you need to do. You know the kind of thoughts you accommodate. That is why growth is vitally important. And even in terms of saying no, growth
Yep.
is what helps you be able to say no. When you're still, not growing, you say yes to everything. But when you're growing, you're able to say no to the things that don't serve you. So I just thought it was
Absolutely.
necessary to say some of these things before I now go into your question. So
Right.
which areas do we need to grow? Now, success requires growth. So just wanted to put it out there. Success requires growth. So because of that, in terms of the general areas, of course, that we need to grow are put under personal and professional, or life and business. However, I try not to use a one size fits all and say, oh, this is how you must grow in this order. I always start with saying you must first of all identify what you want. What is your
Absolutely.
why? Because, for example, for you, your growth might be health right now. That might be your priority. Of course, you
Yep.
know that you're going to grow every area in your life, and every area in your life covers your spiritual life, your health, your finances, your business, your relationships, your personal, self-care. All of those areas need to grow. But now we come to priorities. In what areas do you need to grow in? You now have to prioritize based on why. Why do I want to grow?
Right.
When I was a lot many years ago, when I was just starting out on my personal development journey, I used to shove it down everybody's throats. Oh my God, you have to grow in your finances. You need money to do this. You need to grow your business. You need to, but with time, I realized that no, it's actually not one size fits all. It comes down to what exactly you want
Absolutely.
at the particular time in your life that you are. Growth is in phases, and the phase, everybody's
Rest.
at different growth phases. So you might be in a phase of your life right now where your health is utmost priority to you. I remember I always jokingly
Yeah.
talk about the time when, still in my personal development beginning of the journey, when I was so hungry to just be more and do more, and then I signed up through a mentor. Still, that's another thing too. When you're growing, when you're growing with time, you find out that there are some people that are not your mentors. But when you are at that infant stage, you think, oh,
Yes.
everybody is your mentor. So there was one time I joined network
Mm.
marketing, and then you'll be talking to people and then you say, yes, you need money. Right now you're young. You need to hustle for your money first. When you get then your health. No, everybody has a different phase in their life. Right now, your phase might be
Absolutely.
finances, and you want to grow in
Mm.
your finances. However, one thing I would like to quickly say is the most important area that we need to grow in is our mind, because our
Yes.
mind is what affects every part of our lives. Whether we want to
Life.
grow
Mm.
spiritually, whether we want to grow in our business, whether we want to grow in our health, whether we want to grow in our relationships, whether we want to grow wherever, we have to first
Mm.
grow in our mindset. And that means raising our level of awareness, knowing
Yes.
who we are and knowing what we want to become. So when you
Mm.
know who you are, you know that, oh, these are the things I am. This is who I am. These are
Yes.
deep questions that nobody can
Yes.
really answer for you. But when you take time to understand who you are, then you now, okay, this is who I am. This is where I am now. This is who I want to become. This is my aspiration. You find
Mm.
out that you start growing mentally. Your mindset will start growing, and it
Mm.
will rub off on every area of your life, because you find out that you start practicing self-control. For example,
Mm.
you start,
Yep.
exuding wisdom, and all of these things touch on. That's the interesting thing about growth. So the mind is the first thing, and it starts with asking the question, who am I? And then
Mm.
going on to, who do I want to be? Thank
Man,
you.
I mean, see, you've talked a lot of things, and there's so many things to distill from just the block of time you just had to talk right now. And I'm just gonna attempt to take it one by one and push it further. I think one of the first things that I need to hang on is the fact that you mentioned that growth is a journey, and people need to realize that there are different phases, just like you said, of growth, and you need to realize where you are at a particular time and set the priorities of what you need to focus on per time. I mean, just like a typical example, a baby that was born and still learning to walk. There are times that the baby will try and fall down. There are times, the baby wants to do everything, but you need to have focus and know, okay, this is the area where I want to do it. And what came to my mind when you were talking was like a jigsaw puzzle. There are different pieces to it, right? But you for you to be able to put everything together, you need to spend time section by section and put it together one piece at a time. If you start doing it, in a unorganized manner, you are not going to get it. And I do a lot of puzzle work. I do a lot of crossword puzzles and even photo puzzles and all of that. And I realized that the best way to go about it is to start from the edges, right? And focus on the edge at a time, until you get the full picture in. So that speaks to what you were saying about, knowing who you are, knowing where you are on that calendar, because a lot of people make that mistake. And I think somebody put it this way, that comparison, kills a lot of people, in terms of you're always comparing yourself with somebody else. Oh, by this time I should be this. And then I think from a societal point of view as well, people have put time blocks to some things to say, oh, you need to be married by 27, or you need to be, do this by this and all that. And it doesn't work like that, because I've realized that every individual has his own time and purpose that God, the creator, has given to them. And you need to just know exactly where you are on God's calendar. And that's about being in the center of his will. So at this time, that, okay, I'm focusing on health, and that's your priority. I'm focusing on, all my physical shape and all of that. And then you can shift to a point where it is finances now that you're looking at. But it takes growth to take it one step at a time. And I loved another point you mentioned about the fact that as you grow, you get to, shed off some things that you now become more focused. You sharpen your vision, because it's not everything that is meant for you. And I've been at that stage before, just like you. I buy all the books. If I see anything, I jump at it and all that. But as I grew over time, and I'll come back to the mentorship that you mentioned, because it's very critical as well. The kind of people I started surrounding myself with, the kind of mentors I started following, considering the fact that I knew who I am and what I was, I'm meant to achieve. that helped me to eliminate some people and focus on some people, and those people I focused on as mentors, I followed them, and it kind of streamlined me into things I'm doing part-time. And that's very instructive. Now, going back to that mentorship, because we need to pull it out as a standard. I know, these days, because people have motivational speakers and all of that, they've kind of weakened, that aspect of life. But it is very, very important, because you need to take advice from somebody that has been to where you're going. And it's key for me, because that has helped me along the way, right? The Yoruba adage says that, if I want to employ a tailor, right, to sew for me, I'm paraphrasing now, I need to see what the tailor is wearing to let me know that, oh yeah, this guy is, fashionable and all of that. He can do what I'm trying to, achieve. But if you don't follow people that have done it before, then you are going to make that mistake yourself, and it's going to take a longer time to get to where you're going. So thank you for highlighting all of those things. I mean, we're still going to go back to some of them as we continue to discuss. But one thing I wanted to pull out as well, just like the example of a baby, is the fact that failure is also part of your growth experience. So there are times that you try something, you fail. It doesn't mean that you as a person, you're bad. It just means you're in a situation. And I see it personally, I don't know what your views are, but I see it personally as an opportunity to learn. And once I get it done, it's a nugget in my purse or in my bag that I can use next time. So how does failure relate to growth from your perspective?
So failure is, like you said, it's part of the process. If you look at a baby, for example, when a baby,
Mm.
I'm yet to see a baby that just got up one day
I started
and just
working.
started
Mm.
walking, never
Mm.
stumbled, never tripped, just walk, and that was it. No. When you see a baby trying to
Mm.
walk, the baby
Yeah.
will try first to stand up, fall, stand up, fall, stand up, fall, then walk, fall, walk, fall. I mean, you never see a baby stand up, fall, and doesn't stand up again. The baby gets up, and that is how, with
Right.
time, the legs become firm, the confidence increases, and then the
Mm.
baby starts walking. So we are very, as human beings, we're very
Right.
kind, and we find it cute when we see babies do that, and we giggle and we laugh. But then when it happens to us as adults, we don't want to get up again. We lie down flat on the floor and feel like,
Mm.
oh, this has got to be the end. You know, for me, like I said, I have had, oh my goodness, I've made so many mistakes in my life. Oh my God. I have had
Right.
some epic failures. Also, because I'm a very driven
Mm.
person. There's something about people that are
Mm.
very personally driven. You're very ambitious and you just want to
Yeah.
get things. You get to make a lot of mistakes and you get to make a fool of yourself. I've done that so many times. But, every time I
Mm.
fall, I'm reminded that they said the difference between a fool and a hero is that the hero succeeded. So, for
Right.
example, everybody's talking about the Wright brothers because even when they didn't just fly the airplane once. They must have crashed, of course,
Mm.
mild crashes, but they must have crashed a number of times before. But then they didn't give
Yeah.
up, and that's why they are considered heroes.
Mm.
So for me, I remind myself when failing is part of the journey, and it's what funny enough,
Mm.
is a paradox, but it's what makes life interesting. Think about it. Imagine
Absolutely.
for me, because I've had some epic failures in my life. So in those times when I failed, I'll be like, why is my life like this? Why can't I just be, everything? But I'm like,
Smooth,
how
everything
boring.
flying.
Exactly. How boring
Mm.
will life be if we had it all figured out? We knew the right move to
Right.
make. Let me tell you, the people that don't fail, show me someone that has never failed, and I'll show you someone that has never truly lived. They are
Yeah.
living so
Absolutely.
safe that they are really not living. But when you live
Mm.
an adventurous life, you will fail, but at least you would have fun in the process. At least you can look back
Absolutely.
and say, I did that. At least you're
Mm.
growing. And the beautiful thing is, failing makes you grow. Because when
Yes.
you fail, you fall flat on your bum bum. And next time you say,
Mm.
oh, you know what? I know I shouldn't do that. I mean, they always say
Mm.
that the best experience is always good to learn from someone else's experience and not your own.
Right.
Yes, because your own experience is the most painful, but guess what? Your own experience teaches you like exponentially. Nobody can ever teach you the way your experience can teach you. And
Mm.
just to talk a bit on that mentorship, because for me, when I started my journey, you hear things like you can't be successful without a mentor. You can't be
Mm.
successful without a coach.
Mm.
Well, I agree with that statement to an extent, but not
Mm.
entirely, because I don't believe that everybody that has been successful had a mentor or a coach.
Mm.
Now, a
Mm.
mentor is important, a coach is important. But my
Mm.
point is, when people say absolute terms like that, because I fell into that trap when I was just
Right.
starting my journey, because I kept believing this thing, you can't be successful without a mentor, you can't be successful without a coach. I was so desperate to get a mentor. And I know that
Mm.
a lot of people are in that boat right
Space.
now. I
Mm.
doubted myself, I second guessed myself. Guess what? Not all the mentors. I mean, I have one or two coaches that have been
Mm.
really good, but most of the others really would just vibrate to me what exactly I said. For example,
Mm.
you are a man, you know you're a
Mm.
man, but you're not
Right.
sure you're a man. So you go and meet a mentor or a coach who will tell you you are a man. Then you
You're
know
a
say, oh
man.
yeah, it's true, I'm a man. No, that
Wow.
was what happened to me in most of the with the other mentors and in fact, the first time I went to network marketing, it was because of a mentor. Because she
Mm.
said, I went to meet her and said, oh, I love what you're doing, I'd like you to mentor me. And she says, cool, I'll be your mentor. And the next thing you know, the next day she called me and she said, I know that you said I should be your mentor, you want to start speaking, I have a
Mm.
program for you where you're going to really speak. And the next
Mm.
thing you know is she invited me to this place and I got there and it was network marketing. And I had to
Wow.
enroll that day. I really
Wow.
didn't want to, but out of respect for her, I had to pay
Mm.
150,000 naira. When I look at all
Wow.
of those mistakes, there's some coaching programs I paid almost millions.
Wow.
So for me, the advice I give people now is know who you are and pace
Mm.
yourself.
Mm.
Work on yourself. And that still comes back to growth. When you
Yes.
grow, you would actually attract the ideal mentors for you because people are watching you. And people also want to
Absolutely.
be associated with you. And then, even if they don't come to
Yes.
meet you, by the time you go to meet them, you have something valuable to offer them. So it's a good
Absolutely.
and healthy exchange. A lot of times, people,
Absolutely.
even for me, I've had mentees come to me with their cups absolutely dry. And all they've come to
Mm.
do to me is to
It's to
plug
take.
into me and siphon everything from me. And so,
Right.
even with me to growing, also makes me say no to certain people that say they want me to mentor them because I know
Mm.
so mentoring is give and take, but it first starts with you knowing who you are and growing as a person so that you can attract the right person and both of you can exchange value.
Man, so yet again, there are a lot of things, and I mean, like I said, we can't do justice to this in one session. So I'm hoping that we'll break this into multiple sessions, and just dig deeper. But a couple of things you've mentioned, and just to give you an highlight, when you were talking about, the baby falling down and all of that, do you realize that one of the reasons why the baby keeps attempting to come back up is because that baby is seeing other adults or other kids that are walking around,
Exactly.
and that's the position of saying, okay, you need to have someone around you that has been there, that has done it, that can keep you motivated. But again, like I mentioned earlier, I think in our times, a lot of people have watered that mentoring part down a bit, and that's become something else. I am of the opinion that you need to strike a balance, just like you said, right? Some people say, oh, you can't absolutely succeed without a mentor. I really don't believe that 100%. I know you need people, but again, mentors can be people that are unbecoming around you. So maybe you're thinking of how to do something, and someone around you says, oh, yeah, we can do it like this. I've done it before. That's a mentor in that sense. Do you understand? Not like, oh, somebody you put, a mentor tag on. But I believe that
Exactly.
along the way, you meet people that will point you in the right direction here and there. Those are mentors, those are coaches, along to help you along the way. So those are two things I wanted to pull out. And then talking about failure, just like you said, I personally believe, and I think about a week or 2 weeks ago, I was posting something about knowledge, and I was saying that, there are two sides to experience, just like you said, your own personal experience and experience from others. Now, what I told, in that post, what I said is that you need both. So you need to fail yourself, right? And gain that experience because it becomes yours. My pastor will say it this way, that for you to be a message, you need to have a mess, right? So you would have gone through a mess, and then out of it you get a message, right? The other side of experience is other people's experience. Now what that does for you is that it keeps you, outside the loophole. So what somebody has gone through before, by the time you sit with them and glean it from them, you don't have to go through it again. So you need a mixture of both to be, to be very, very tight when it comes to, gaining from failure, adding to your experience, and growing, and all of that. Now, so that's fantastic. The other aspect I wanted us to look at, going back to the agricultural setting and agricultural example, is the notion of environment. How important is your environment when it comes to growing and your growth?
Wow, it is vitally important, extremely. Now, for starters, there are some people that are fortunate. They have the right physical environment. So by that I mean, maybe you come from a family that you have parents that support you, you have parents that love you, you have siblings that support you. You are in an environment where there's no abuse, where people allow you to live, where people allow you to be yourself. If you notice, people like that, the thoughts they tend to have are different from the other people. For example, let's say someone is from an abusive family, a toxic environment where the parents are always quarreling, where the siblings are rivals, and then everything is just upside down. There's a world of difference. However, when it now comes to growth, that's where awareness. A lot of people, and there was a time I used to believe that, I once had someone who I was really close to, who was a very toxic influence in my life. But I spent most of the time with the person, and I felt like, because I can't get rid of this person, so it's almost like I just have to accept myself like that. But then in that period, I then started working on my mind, because the truth is, our mind is an environment.
Yes.
So you can be in a slum, or you can be in a very toxic physical environment. But when you begin to work on your mind, everything changes. In the world we live in today, we are very lucky. You can actually be in a physically toxic environment, but you have access to the internet. And on the internet, you get to watch, think about it, people watching your program, for example, plugged into your platform. You get to enlighten your mind. You get to watch church programs. You get to watch motivational things and inspirational programs. So physically, you're still physically in that environment, but something is changing mentally. And so with time, you find out that when you are intentional, especially for people who are really deliberate on the journey, you start changing. Yes, I may not be where I would have liked to be now, but I can do something about the thoughts that I permit in my mind. I can do something about the words that I speak. I can do something about my actions. And so the fact that you're working on your mind, you start framing your big picture. You start framing your goals. You start understanding that nothing lasts forever. So even if right now, physically, this is where I am, but this is just a phase. And then you continue to build yourself. So you are physically in that environment, but you are not off that environment, because your mind is of a different, you're thinking like, wow. I might think about people that Oprah Winfrey inspired just from watching her on YouTube or watching her wherever. And like, wow, it's possible if a girl from rural Mississippi who was raised
Yes.
by an old maid could become
Mm.
the richest black woman in the
Black
world.
woman. Right.
So it means that,
Right.
oh, me too, in this place, I can actually do that someday. So
Yes.
with that, now you now see that even though your environment is extremely important, but there's the internal environment and there's the external environment. In any case, to really influence your external environment, you have to work on your internal environment. There are some people that appear to have the best in life, but you wonder how it is that those people still, I'm sad to say, but some people will still commit suicide, or some people will still
Yeah.
be depressed, and you're like, for
Yeah.
goodness sake, you have everything, you have all the money, you have
Mm.
all. It's because the mind is
Mm.
weak, the mind
Yes.
is defeated, the mind
Yes.
is, so what's the point? You don't value it. But when you start
Mm.
working on your mind, you start even saying that, oh, even this my environment, I'm grateful. Gratitude
Mm.
then comes into play, because
Yes.
somebody might be saying, oh, they live in the slum, but then there's another
Mm.
person that lives under the bridge, and the person in the slum will say, oh, at least I have a roof over my head.
Over my
So
head.
environment is so important, but the good news is we can actually create our own environment internally in our
Mm.
minds on the way
Mm.
to where we're going to and where we'll eventually get to.
Man, so you're spot on everything, and as you're talking, a lot of things were just coming into my mind. To buttress the point, and I'll just drop a couple as we try to move to the other segment and some other questions that will come in. So environment is important, just like you said, and one of the examples that came to my mind is onion. You do you know that onion is not meant to affect your eyes the way it does? And the reason why it does is because those ones that actually pepper your eyes were planted in soil that had sulfur. If you plant onion in a soil that doesn't have sulfur, it would not have that effect on your eyes. I mean,
Mm,
I got to know about that, and it was just like
wow.
really, I think it's mind-boggling that the effect of environment on growth and the impact therein. And that the other thing you mentioned also is about, the difference that, okay, you have your physical world, but you also have your mental world. And yesterday, I was just talking to a colleague of mine about, because anytime I have a show or a program like this, towards the end of the week, I use the days prior to that to just post something related as a primer. And I posted something yesterday, and she kind of buzzed me. I was like, oh, I'm saying that you need to, if you don't like where you are, you can move. You're not a tree, right? And she's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. So that she doesn't understand that have I done that? And I said, okay, there are two sides to it. There is the mental part and there is the physical part. You need to start the journey from here, just like you said. So even if you're living in a slum, you have your mind. And I love the way God has made it that you can fly in your imagination. You can be in another world. Growing up, right? I dwelled on Disney movies, Aladdin, and all those things because at the time I didn't have anything, but those were the things that were in my mind, and some of the things I pictured in my mind back then, to a large extent, I am experiencing them now. So it has taken time. And that goes back to what you said again, that growth is a journey. It happens in phases. And for me, if you have it right in your mind, it's just a question of time. You will physically experience it in your environment, your physical environment. So that's pretty much, important. And I appreciate you for pulling that out. Now, the other one I wanted to look at is association. And I think you mentioned something about that as well when you had someone around you that was toxic and all that. So does association affect growth?
Oh, yes, big time.
Mm,
For this
mm,
one, I would say do all you can to protect yourself.
right.
Like with, like I said, we learn every day. And for me, I've learned.
Mm, right.
There was a time I believed and I was carried away by people around
Mm,
me. And you think, oh, everybody is your friend, and you open up your heart and your mind to everybody. But life has taught me that it is better to have only one person
mm,
who is valuable to you, who is
yes.
good company, who
Yes.
helps you grow, and who you can also, who gives and receives from you, than having 100 people around you who are
Mm,
just there.
mm,
Association is because your mind is your your mind is a gateway, and
Yes.
when you as the people you associate yourself with, in a way, you open that gateway for them to come in. To me, I
Mm.
believe association is so important. It affects you because you are mixing your mindset with another person's mindset. You are
Mm.
engaging in somebody else's thought pattern. So you
Mm.
have to be very, very, very careful. For
Mm.
me, and like luckily that's how you are too. I believe a lot. I believe so strongly in God.
Right.
And I feel like if all I have is my Bible with me,
Mm. Mm.
without any friends, I
Mm.
believe that I'm okay.
Right.
Because that's not to say that I don't need friends. I mean, I have a few very good friends, but I've
Yes.
come to realize that just having people around you is not enough. The
Mm.
people you let into your space have to be people that you have tested, that help you
Absolutely.
to grow, that help you to be a
Mm.
better person. There's something I
Mm.
used to say. There are some people that those days when I wasn't intentional, and I'll go and visit some friends, and by the time I'm driving away from their house, I feel drained. I
Drained.
feel like
Yeah.
I feel like something has moved out of me. I feel
Mm.
so drained, and for the rest of the evening, I feel discouraged and I don't feel nice. And when I now started getting attention, I realized that those friendships, when I went there, all we did idle chatter,
Mm.
comparison. The person was
Mm.
probably bragging about something
Mm.
that they have that I don't have. You know,
Right.
person probably said some things that put me down, made fun of me or something. And whereas there are a few other people who, when I leave them, I feel full. I
Yeah.
feel like something has been added to me. I feel good and happy.
Mm.
So association is so important, and it's something that we must guard with everything. We must be intentional. We can't even play with it. And this
Mm.
also seeps into even the people we date, the people we get married to, the people we
Absolutely.
work with. And
Absolutely.
you somebody can be your acquaintance, but in terms of being coming into your inner
That's
space, you
right.
have a right to not allow everybody come into your inner space. It's something that you owe yourself.
Mm. Good point there. And I mean, like I said, every time you talk, I have examples just flooding through my mind and things to buttress what you've said. And it's really critical from an association point of view. And if you look at the picture I put up there, it's like a plant that is growing from stage to stage. And I mean, in an agricultural setting, because you can't really talk about growth and not give examples, parallel examples from agriculture. You know that with the right plant, there is a tendency to have weeds around you, and a good farmer would take out those weeds because what they do is they're parasitic in nature. They come in, and that's why you feel that way anytime you're around those kind of toxic friends, because all they do is take, they're not adding to you. And the kind of friend you need to have in your space should be those that are adding to you every time. That when you know what the Bible says about iron sharpening iron. Those are the kind of
Yeah,
friends that you need to have in that your inner circle. And again, while you were talking, I just remember that even Jesus Christ had different gateways of friendship and levels. There
yeah,
was the 5,000 people that just came for what they wanted to eat. There was the 70, then he had the 12, and then he had the three in his innermost, core. So you need to have gateways. And I tell people because I also have another group on relationship that I mentor people on, and we just sit down and talk about matters of the heart. And I tell them that, you know what, you need to have gateways. Nobody should access your innermost part if they've not how do I put it, if they've not gone through some tests and they've come out successful. You understand? So you won't come into my innermost space until I have tried you and I've tested you and I see that yes, your core values and mine are the same. We're heading the same direction. We can sharpen each other. And anytime I sit with you, I feel on top of the world. Just like you said, I'm full, I'm motivated, I want to do something, as opposed to having someone that I sit with and I'm drained at the end of the day. Again, that takes growth for you to be able to understand where people are and put them at different stages with different gateways to access you. So it's really, really engaging. And I thank you for pulling that out. Now, there's a bit of a tradition, in this setting that I forgot to do at the start. and we'll go back to it once we're done. And it's about just learning from you how you set your goals, you track your goals and achieve them. But we'll circle back to that, in a while, in a short bit. But let's move on. I think this is the interesting part for me, in terms of what are the practical ways that you feel people need to have to measure their growth. And the second part will be, the mindset that you need. I know we've touched on a lot of things here and there, but this is just to try and consolidate it together.
Okay, so I'll start by saying that growth, each person has to define their own growth.
Right.
Each person, because sometimes, when in those days when you attend goal setting workshops, tell you to, write down all your goals, break them down, be specific, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
people like me, I've come to understand myself. I'm a bit of a rebel when it comes to these things, because I have my own, it's like, I don't know the word to use. I have my own method of doing things.
Customized
And
thing way.
strangely, do you know that I can hold myself accountable for my actions? I don't need, how do I say this now without being misunderstood? I don't necessarily need somebody holding a whipping and saying, no, you must do this, wake up. For
So you're
me, on my own.
self-accountable. You're self-accountable.
Exactly. So because of that, I have my own methods that I use that work for me. So before, I thought I used to go by the generic ways. Oh, do this, you must do like that. But with time, I found out that it all starts with what you want. That is the beginning, first of all. To measure growth, you have to even know, what do you want? For example, somebody might say, I want to be an entrepreneur. Okay, that is a wish. How do you now, what are the practical things you can do to get on your entrepreneurial journey? So the person might now say, okay, I'm going to put myself on a 100-day challenge, for example. And in these 100 days, I'm going to create products, but they are free products. So I'm going to test the water by churning out free products. And I'm going to do this for, say, 60 days. I'm just going to be giving out free content to see how people interact with my content, and how people, engage and accept it. Then after 60 days, I would now put out an outline for rollouts, for actual launch. So for 10 days out of that, after that 60 days, these are the things I'm going to do. I'm going to do my business plan. I'm going to create my website. I'm going to start building my list. These are things that the person is drawing up. And then by the 70th day, I roll out. And then so for me, it all comes to, what do you want? So in this case of the person that says, I want to be an entrepreneur, the person wants to be an entrepreneur. But from where the person is, the person has to grow. It's not enough to just, the reason why we have, and you've said it a couple of times, we have a lot of watered down professional, I don't want to call them professionals, watered down workers. It's because there's no growth in the mix. You just wake up today and say, I'm a business person, finish. The journey of entrepreneurship is one of growth, actually.
Yes.
You have to keep growing every single day. So for that person, you say, okay, in 100 days, I would be able to say, I am an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is somebody that makes money by creating products and services and distributing them. But then the person starts, for me, I do well with routines. And I also do well with like, in terms of, I believe so much in that passage that says, teach us to number our days so we can be wise. That we may be wise. So I believe a lot in the value of 24 hours in days. So for me, I have every single day, even a Saturday, even a Sunday. Now, I just want to say that this is me. It may not work for somebody else, but this is me.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So I deal it every day. I have a plan for every day, even weekends. I noticed before I didn't have plans, and the day would just go by. I will know, what did I do today? But for me, what I do now is every day I have a plan. I even have a time for just fasting. So maybe I
Yep.
can say from 9 to 12, I'm just going to fast. So,
Mm-hmm.
so that I know I fast because I wanted to
You
fast.
wanted to. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So if I was that person, for example, I say in 100 days, this is what I'm doing. This is me. I'm not
Mm.
under anybody. I'm the one putting this on myself.
Or
So
myself.
every
Right.
single day, there are things I'm going to be doing in that 100 days. For me to, let me use the example of, say, a writer.
Mm.
For you to create an article that would be valuable, you have to
Mm.
study, you
Absolutely.
have to do research, you have
Mm.
to read.
Mm.
Imagine doing that almost every day for
Mm.
100 days. You, by the 100th day, you would have grown beyond your imagination. So, but then
Absolutely.
when you put those days, oh, today, these are the things I'm going to do, blog for so and so hours, read this, do this. At the end of each day, you have things that are quantifiable, that you say,
Absolutely.
oh, I started writing on Medium and
Mm.
now I have published 25 articles. These are
Mm.
now things that you can use to measure your growth. I started
Absolutely.
publishing my videos on YouTube and now I
Mm.
have 5 videos
Mm.
published on YouTube. I
Yep.
started, these are now practical things that you do. But for me, I feel to make it very practical is to bring it down to the days and putting a
Yeah.
plan for what you want to do in those days.
Mm. Well, I mean, you're spot on everything, and you've sort of answered that other question about how you set your goals and all that. And I like the fact that you mentioned that this is you, because again, a lot of people need to understand that we're all different, right? The whole idea why I ask that question is to ensure that the community sees the different flavors of how people do this. So it's not one rule fits all or cast in stone. We're very flexible, and I like to put it this way, that variety is the spice of life, basically. So when I know what you do, I can compare with mine and say, oh, okay, maybe I don't do that, but this is what works for me as an individual. And I thank you for stressing that fact, because everybody is unique in their own way, and you need to find something that works for you as an individual. I think the other thing that you mentioned, and I like to kind of put a spotlight on again, is about the fact that you mentioned that journey, giving an example of an entrepreneur. And I've also noticed that a lot of people try, that comparison to say, are you an employee or an entrepreneur? And
Mm-hmm.
maybe rubbish one against the other. And my
Yeah,
own stance is it depends on the individual, right?
yeah,
There are people that are not cut out to be an entrepreneur. And no matter how you train them and you do, they are not that kind of person, right? And there are people that are called out for entrepreneurship that, I mean, I have friends that the moment they left school, by the time they finished their NYSC and all of that, they just say that I'm not working for anybody. And they launched out from there, right? But it doesn't work for everybody like that. Now, even in this space, there is another term, of a group of people called intrapreneurs, where
yeah,
they are not just employees, but they've got to a point in the organization now that they're like they have a bit of both. Their entrepreneurial spirit comes in, but they're still an employee in that organization. So people need to understand the different sections and know where it works for them, because there is not one way to the market. Like my grandmother would say that multiple ways to get to
yeah.
the market. So you need to
Mm-hmm.
find your own path and your own route to get there. So thank you very much for bringing that out. Now, I mean, we have a couple more minutes, but I want us to go to that last part where I was at. Even though, again, during the course of this conversation, we've highlighted a couple of things, but it's just to help us drill it home a bit. So, what kind? You there? Hello, can you still hear me now?
Yeah, yeah. I think you went up. You went up for a bit.
Yeah, I think it's the connection, but let's power through. We're almost done. So
Okay.
so that last part was asking about the mindset, or what mindsets do you think you need to have,
Yeah.
for growth. And I'll start with one that I think we've been consistent with, over time, and that is consistency. Because we mentioned about, failing and then standing up again. So for you to grow, you need to be consistent. You need to do it. And I like what you said about routine. You need to have that routine. And there's something I heard, that someone said that for you to become an expert in anything, you need to spend at least 10,000 hours working on it for you to become an expert. So that's like growing from, just a regular person to being an expert in that person. So let me toss it back to you. What are the other mindset that you feel you need for growth?
Okay, so quickly before I answer this question, I just wanted to also mention something. Being an entrepreneur, because that thing, to a lot of people sort of feel like, oh, if you're working a 9 to 5, you can't be an entrepreneur. I personally believe that everybody should apply an entrepreneurial mindset, whether you are working 9 to 5 or not. Because really, apart from the fact that an entrepreneur makes money from creating their products or services, everybody can apply every other thing. An entrepreneur takes initiative. An entrepreneur is a leader. An entrepreneur creates. So even in your job, you don't have to just be a robot that just goes to work every day. Oh, it's what they give you your job description. You can actually take charge. A business is set up for profitability. So what can you do? What initiatives and projects can you start? And like you said, the entrepreneurship, just basically having an entrepreneurial approach to everything. So now back to the question you asked. The most important mindset that I now believe is still in line with consistency. It is pacing yourself and taking things one step at a time. This is so powerful. I didn't used to believe in this before. For me, because I told you I'm a very driven person, I never really believed in starting small. I always believed, oh, when you want to do something, you have to go all out. It has to be big. It has to be. But what I realized is with that, you burn out really quickly. I recently realized that in any area of your life, it just starts with starting something day one and making a decision that you're going to be consistent with that thing. It will shock you how far you would have gone by the end of maybe 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, by just taking that baby step, pacing yourself and being consistent. One example I always like saying is working out. For me, I never used to work out because I naturally had a very fast body metabolism. So even after having children, I didn't add weight. I'm just, oh, yeah. And then I also thought I was lazy and I couldn't bring myself to work out. But with time, I realized that I wasn't healthy because to walk up a flight of stairs, I'll be panting as if I want to die. But then I just started working out early June. I just started with 10 minutes and I was consistent. After a week, I went to 20 minutes. And then I think after 2 weeks, I went to 30 minutes. And I can't even believe that myself, every single day since June, I have worked out for 30 minutes, apart from the first, early time. 30 minutes every day. I have lost weight. I feel better. I feel more toned. I feel stronger. So that principle is what I've applied to every area of my life. If you look at it in finances, just that little drop, that mindset of doing something little every day, consistently, every day, in any way, it's the most important mindset. Even if you look at the spiritual angle, reading your Bible, if all you do is 10 minutes, study your Bible for 10 minutes every day, imagine how much you would have gone in 3 months, in 6 months, your business, everything. So for me, I think consistency is the most important mindset for growth. And then another mindset is having the mindset of creating something. For me, I like to look at it this way. When I start a day, I say, what can I do? What can I create today that didn't exist yesterday? So for me, I write and I also speak. So every single day, I either create a written content that I publish, or I create a copy for my video that I'm going to publish, or something. There's something I always create every day. And in the process of
Mm.
creating it, I grow, because you can't create this sort of content without studying, without researching,
Absolutely.
without looking at your life. So for me, I think the two most important mindsets: consistency, number one. Number two is creating, having a mindset of creating. Then, of course, the other mindset would be believing in yourself,
Mm.
not comparing yourself to other people. Um, faith. In fact, oh my goodness, I'm sorry, that's very, very important. Faith. Having faith, knowing that God has got you, you're a child of God and you can do
Absolutely.
anything. You have the mind of
Absolutely.
Christ. That's a very powerful mindset to have.
Wow.
Yeah, I think and learning just every day, be hungry to learn something new, no matter how small it is. Yeah.
Mm. Well, again, I don't want to drag it out again because just like I told you, every time you mention some points, I have a lot of things going through my mind just to buttress your point and all of that. But considering that the network is acting up right now and all of that, I think it would be a safe place to drop the anchor, and we definitely need to pick this up, Ota, because we've not really we've done justice to some extent, but I think we need to dig this deeper because there's so much to share with people. And I want to thank you for for this time, for coming on board. And just like we said, 1 hour is just flew by like that. So we
Yeah.
definitely have to have a another session. So thank you very much, for spending
Thank
time with us
you.
today. And I hope to call you back, sometime later. For those
Thank
that
you.
might have experienced, some form of, quality degradation with the sound and all that, we apologize for that. We'll try and get, a better internet connection for us to have this smoothly, and then, remove all the hiccups and all of that. But thank you for sticking with us. Again, we will share this within the group. We'll share it in other touch points that we have, just to bless people and share with the larger community. Until we come back again next week with another guest of mine, I want to thank you, Ota, again for coming, for sparing the
Thank you
time.
for having
We'll
me.
catch up some other time. And to the rest of the community, have a good afternoon. Enjoy the rest of
Thank
your
you.
weekend and have a fruitful week ahead. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.